Options are contracts that grant rights to buyers and obligations to sellers. So a buyer has the right but not the obligation to do something, to buy or sell an underlying asset. Now, that underlying asset could be a share of a stock. So, for example, if you bought an option on, off the top of my head, if you bought an option on Amazon, it gives you the right to buy or sell shares of Amazon at a specific price, and that specific price is known as the strike price, and within a certain time frame, and that time frame is going to be that expiration date. So if we are buying an option, we are buying the right to buy or sell that particular asset. If we are selling an option, we are accepting the obligation to buy or sell that asset. And there are two types of options. So we've got calls and we've got puts. If we're buying a call option, we are buying the right to purchase 100 shares of stock. 100 is typically the number or the quantity that each option represents. It's called the unit of trade or the deliverable. A standard option contract typically represents 100 shares of stock. So if we buy a call option, we are buying the right to purchase 100 shares of stock, of the specific stock that's tied to that option at the strike price and within a certain period of time. So, for example, if we had OICX and we were looking at a $50 strike price, a call buyer has the right to buy 100 shares of OICX at $50 per share anytime between the inception of that trade and the expiration date of that contract. What they're really doing is they are paying $50 a share for 100 shares. So their account would be debited their account would be debited $5,000, right? 50 times 100. And in return, they receive 100 shares of stock. Now, if they're a seller of that call option, they are now obligated to deliver 100 shares of that stock. So if, let's say, I was buying the call option and you were selling it to me, if I decided to exercise my right to buy that stock, you would be obligated to deliver that stock to me. So I would pay $5,000 to you. You would collect $5,000 from me. And in return, you would deliver to me 100 shares of stock. That's how calls work. So a buyer of a call has the right to purchase their stock. The seller of a call is obligated to deliver that stock only if the buyer chooses to exercise their right. If the buyer does not exercise their right for any reason, then as a seller, you no longer have that obligation to sell that stock to me. All right, so those are calls. Let's look on the flip side of the coin. Those would be puts. Buyer of a put option has the right to sell stock at the strike price within that specific period of time, within that expiration period. So a buyer of a $50 put has the right to sell stock at $50 up through expiration. So again, a buyer of a put, if they chose to exercise their right, they would be selling stock. And what happens when you sell? You get paid. So a buyer of a put sells their stock, 100 shares of stock at $50, and in exchange, they collect $5,000. So I buy a put, I choose to exercise, I collect $5,000, and I go ahead and sell my stock at $50 a share. You, as the seller of that put, I am basically putting my stock to you, which is where the term derives from. I'm putting my stock to you. You are now buying those shares from me at $50 a share. So you are paying me $5,000, and in return, you are receiving 100 shares of that stock. All right, does that make sense? Is that clear to everybody? I'm looking through the Q&A, and I'm not seeing too many questions pertaining to this, so I'm hoping that my explanations are clear enough that people are following along with me. But we're going to test that out in just a moment. So that's what options are, right? Rights and obligations is really what it comes down to. But why do people use options? Well, a number of reasons. There's